Hello and welcome to this episode of the Reset Podcast. I'm your host, Laura Mignot. This is part of my 29 Days of Magic series where I get to interview an amazing Black woman every single day for Black History Month. Today's episode, I am super excited because we have the amazing Julee Wilson, who is the Executive Director at BeautyUnited and Editor-at-large at Cosmopolitan magazine, gracing us with her presence today. It's going to be a fantastic conversation. Take a listen. Hey, Julee. How are you?
Hey, I'm so excited to be here. Thank you so much. I feel very honored to be chatting with you.
I am so honored to have you on this. Since we've had 11,000 technical issues, jumping right in.
Yeah.
First question, always the same. Answer is always amazing. I'm sure yours will be no different. So, Julee, what was your first job?
Gosh, my first job was at American Eagle when I was 14 years old. And I was a sales associate at American Eagle. I was just like, I want to be in fashion. I want to do the fashion thing. I want to be I knew I kind of want to be a fashion writer. So I was like, I have to start in the industry. And so my first job as an adolescent was at American Eagle. And then my first full-time job in the industry was the assistant to the editor-in-chief at Real Simple magazine.
Wow. So basically the first job you had was fashion-y in a way.
Yeah.
And then now obviously first real job also fashion-y. So basically you've been on this path forever.
I mean, I just kind of knew what I wanted to do. I think I tried to sidetrack a little here and there. I was like, oh, how do I become this? You become, a doctor, a lawyer, a teacher, a nurse. Those are the things that have set plans. You go to school, you major in this, and then you become this. Journalism, for sure, there's journalism schools and that sort of thing, but it's really hard to break into the industry. So I was scared at first if I was going to be able to make it, but I was still laser focused on what I wanted to do and what I thought my purpose was.
Awesome. So obviously you started out in fashion and you've had an incredible career journey. So I would love to share how you got to be where you are right at this moment.
I mean, it is a long journey. I will try to give you the cliff notes, but I knew, like I said, I knew that I had to get into this publishing world, and I'm now in beauty, but I started off in fashion. And so after my freshman year in college, which most people wait until between their junior and senior year in college to do an internship, I knew that I needed to get a jump start on things. So after my freshman year in college, I moved to New York City, and I had an internship at Bergdorf Goodman. And I went to a small Quaker boarding school in Pennsylvania. And one of the girls who went to that school, her father was the senior vice president at Bergdorf's at the time. So I knew I didn't have an in into publishing, but I had an in into the fashion world. So I asked her father if I could have an internship. There was no internship program at Bergdorf's during that time. And he was just kind of sure, come, we'll figure it out. So I was this little Black girl running around Bergdorf Goodman one summer in the buying department, and just I don't know, just living a dream, running around Bergdorf's one summer. So after that summer, between my sophomore and junior year, I did an internship at Vibe magazine. And then the next summer, I was in the Condé Nast internship program, which is no longer, but I was there at Condé Nast Traveler magazine. And so then after I graduated, after my senior year, they don't take the best and the brightest of each class in publishing. There's a masthead. So you have to wait. And once an assistant or an entry level position opens, everyone wants them. So it was really hard to get a full-time job. So I ended up moving to the city, living with a mentor for free, and taking another internship at Parenting magazine. After 2 months into my internship at Parenting, I got a full-time job as the assistant to the editor-in-chief at Real Simple. So that was really great. I'm a real loyal chick. So I stayed at Real Simple for 6.5 years and worked my way up to being the staff fashion editor. Then in 2011, we, magazines were folding and keeping their digital entities. And so I knew I really need to learn digital. I was just a print girl. And so after Real Simple, I went to the Huffington Post and I was there for 4.5 years. I always say I went from a monthly to a minutely because I was working on like 3 to 4 stories a month at Real Simple. And then I was writing 3 to 5 stories a day at HuffPost. So
Oh
that was like
my
a
gosh.
wild transition and learning digital and learning it at HuffPost, which at that time at least was like the juggernaut of digital media. I always say I worked at HuffPost when it like really mattered, when like Ariana was there and like all of that. And then after 4.5 years there, I spent 4 years to the day at Essence Magazine. I started off as the fashion and beauty director and then transitioned into the global beauty director. So let go of fashion while I was at Essence. And then now I've been at Cosmo for almost 3 years. So it's been a wild and fantastical journey, but one that I'm so grateful for.
It's so incredible. And the fact that like one, that you're a loyal chick, like you stuck around and stayed at places and sucked up as much incredible knowledge. And then the next place that you went to, you could just power all that into it. And it's one of the things I adore about you is how you advocate for Black beauty brands, in a
Yeah.
way of showing that like this is not a game. This is where you need to be playing. What do you think has probably been the biggest lesson that you've been able to impart on working at Cosmo?
At Cosmo, it's been a really amazing experience. Look, when I was at Essence, I always say when people are like, well, what do you do? I'm like, I celebrate the dopeness of Black women every day. So at Essence, that was the mandate, right? And like something that is obviously very close to my heart, being a Black woman in this space. Um, and I think sometimes you get scared I started in mainstream media. So to go back to mainstream media after being at Black Girl Magic headquarters, I definitely was nervous that maybe, I wouldn't be able to tell the type of stories that, get me excited when it comes to like diversity and inclusion in beauty. But my editor in chief here, Jessica Giles, has been like amazing. She is like, go tell the stories. I have a column now at Cosmo that's in the magazine every month called Yours, Mine, Ours. And it's literally the intersection between Black culture and beauty and talking about the stories that are unique to us. So I've been really blessed that I could go to this brand, which is the biggest young women's media brand in the world, not in the country, in the world, and still be my authentic self and tell stories from my perspective.
That's so amazing, and not at all surprising that you were able to do it because you're a dope Black woman. So you made it happen. Those tend to be the rules. It's
But
like,
look, a lot of dope women are in places that they don't get that opportunity and they're struggling to try to have that type of, freedom, autonomy. And I do not take it for granted that I am at a place that wasn't created for me, but has allowed me to create space for people that look like me.
yeah, I think that's the key about it. It's like when you're able to, because again, not everybody can, but when you're able to, and then be this advocate, be like, and by the way, when you do this, think about all you get back in return in terms of viewership. And it's basically when you invest in Black women, you make more money. That
Mm-hmm.
just is those are the rules. And it allows people to get a better sense of that, like if you can actually take 2 seconds back and look and see how much we're spending on beauty products, how much how obviously wild and diverse our interests might be, it's just makes good business sense to do it as well.
Absolutely. That's why I always say, I'm like, you don't like making money if you're not talking to the Black community in a real and authentic way, because we are here with the money, with the coins to spend. If if there are brands and products that speak to our magical and beautiful existence. So the money is there to be had. It's just a matter of finding the brands and the companies that respect our spending power.
Yeah, I think that's the key point. It's respecting our spending power and not making 1950s assumptions about what we can and cannot buy.
Right.
Or wouldn't want to
Exactly.
buy. It's like you want premium, we got premium. You want like mom and pop, we got mom and pop. Everything in between. And,
Hmm.
and that's okay. And that's cool. like I always say, it's always good to be high, low, and in between, and make those smart choices. So thinking back on like where all the really amazing things you've been able to do, what do you think you'd tell 18-year-old Julie?
Oh my God, girl, stop worrying. Chill out. Like I just I I would tell 41-year-old Julie that too right now, to stop worrying and chill out. Like literally at every turn, my testimony, my career, my path, personally and professionally, honestly, it's just always worked out in such beautiful ways. And I feel like I've taken off like a month, if not years of my life worrying about whether it was going to work out. And it always does. I remember like all the jobs I interviewed for that I didn't get. And I would like cry myself to sleep and be like, I'll never make it. It's not going to happen. No one's like hiring me. And then the jobs that I did end up getting were better than the jobs I cried over. So I, I think I would just keep reminding myself, 18-year-old Julie and Julie now, that to let go of some of that worry. I don't think I'll ever be carefree. I don't think that that's possible, especially as a black woman in this world who's, you know, who pushes the Black agenda, has two Black children and a Black husband. But I think I can let down some of that burden. I'm looking for the soft life, or a softer life.
Yeah, I'm a big advocate for a softer life. I don't know if it's possible to get to the soft life.
Yeah, I don't know either.
Because like I think the day that I stop worrying about something is the day that I'm gonna be concerned.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. I don't think I can completely give it up, but like I do want to get to a place where I don't worry as much, and that there is some type of grace of like, Julie, like you're doing well. I mean, it's so funny. I look at like some of those like shows like Planet Earth and like Cosmos and stuff, and I'm like, we're literally a speck of dust when it comes to like the whole universe and like all of the different galaxies and that sort of thing. And I know I'm getting woo woo right now, but it's important, I think, sometimes to remember how small we are. I'm not about moving in a small way, because I do feel like you have one life to live and I'm not here to be mediocre. So I'm going to turn up my light. But I
Exactly.
also think that it's important to not take everything so seriously and not to worry ourselves to death, because in the grand scheme of things, we're surfing on this little tiny speck of dust in the whole universe. So just let's all just calm down and gain
Well,
some
it's true,
perspective.
but it was what one. It's such a good point because on the one hand, yeah, in this vast cosmos, we are a speck in the universe. But while we're here, let's make the most of it. And
Exactly.
spending our time worrying, all it does is take months and years off of our life. I'm sure we've all worried. I think, especially when you're a Black woman, because you're in these different spaces and you feel like you have the entire Black community on your back, and you don't want.
Yes.
And it's hard. I mean, I know that for me, like from going from being an entrepreneur to like now going back into corporate, but at a super high level where it's highly visible, and I'm like, okay, I can't do anything scary. But on the flip side, it's like, well, actually, this gives me a chance to like, shine even brighter lights in the way that I've always have,
Mm-hmm.
more authentically, and like, and show what it means, what this looks like. And it's not the same as every other Black executive that you see out there on purpose, because I'm not the same. We're all different. And I think
We're
sometimes
all different.
folks are like, well, this one doesn't do this. And I'm like, yeah, that's cool. Great for her. I do this. Like,
Exactly. We're not a monolith. There's enough light for us to shine. I hate the comparison culture of it all. Like, ain't nobody trying to compare to anyone else. I'm just trying to be my best Black magical self. Like, and that is hard enough. So, trying to put the expectations of other people, or looking at other people's lives and trying to live up to those standards or moments, is just exhausting and something we can't do.
yeah, life's too short. I think one thing we've learned as a result of the pandemic is life is just entirely too short for that foolishness.
Yep. Agreed.
It's not necessary. So thinking about, obviously you've had such an awesome career. talk about the time you had a challenge where you're like, there's no way I'm getting out of it. And then you did.
Oh my God. All the time, girl. What are you talking about?
You're
Like,
like, okay.
that's like a daily, I mean, I hate to say it, but it is like a daily situation. You don't know how many times I'm like, nope, don't see the light at the end of the tunnel. This tunnel is dark. Like, I don't know if I'm going to be able to make it. And it could be just like little tasks. Like, I added onto my professional plate becoming executive director of Beauty United, this amazing 501c3 nonprofit in the beauty space. And like, look, I'm a journalist. I don't come from the nonprofit world, but I do believe in the mission of Beauty United to bring more diversity and inclusion into the beauty space. And but because I don't come from that world, it's a constant battle for me to like remind myself that I can um I can show up in this space and be of value, even if I'm not some badass, well-known nonprofit like, you know, organizer, but that my presence still is valuable. So I'm constantly dealing with those demons of like, what am I doing? Am I doing this right? That sort of thing. And I mean, and then the list goes on as far as like big moments, like defining moments in my career where I was like, this isn't going to work. And then it did. And it worked out better than I ever thought it would. So if we had 2 hours, I would like, or maybe I'll just write a book someday.
You did.
To like,
you didn't.
I'm like all the shit that I thought was going to fail and didn't. Thank you, God. That's the name of it.
Exactly. It's also like you wouldn't be in those spaces if you weren't supposed to be there. Like I'm a firm believer in that. And I oftentimes similarly have those same like, for real, this is not gonna work. And then not only did this work, it killed.
Mm-hmm.
I think it comes back to our universal belief of worry. We're Black women. We're like,
yes,
like there's a switch in there. It's part of what makes us magical, I think, is the fact that we have worry built in. So
absolutely.
so
You're right.
you kind of have to think you're thinking it through, but also how to. I think it's so beautiful that we know how to like think big and like, why the fuck not? Of course we can do this, even if it may kill us. we're still
exactly. But then it takes us getting out of our own way, right? I know how to dream big. I do. I have the dreams. They're in my head, but then I always talk myself out of them. So I need to like, I'll be like, oh, like 1/2 of 1% like makes it and is able to do X, Y, and Z. And I really need to like get out of my way and say, well, what if it works out, Julie? Like just do it,
and realize that like, look where you are. I oftentimes think of that. Like, I got really great advice years ago when I was like, oh, there's all this ridiculous stuff. And my friend was like, where are you sitting? And I was like, oh, I'm in my apartment in Manhattan. She's like, was there a time when you didn't live in Manhattan? I'm like, yeah. Did you love where you live?
Mm-hmm.
No. So basically,
Exactly.
you're living the life that you've always wanted. And
Right. And giving
yeah.
ourselves that grace again. I was talking to a good girlfriend of mine and I was like poo-pooing on myself around like, God, like, how am I going to get this generational wealth for these kids? And like, well, I'm trying to do this and I got to get like do I need to get another job? And like, how are we ever going to like make it, right? Meanwhile, we have like such an amazing, like, I have such an amazing trajectory and we have such an amazing life already, right? Like, not to poo poo on where we are now. But again, everyone's just constantly hustling for more. And I had to like step back and also look at where I came from. And my parents worked so hard, right, to like get us the education we deserved and all the things, keep a roof over our head. And I'm like, my father picked cotton. Like my father picked cotton in the South at work camps when he was young. This is the legacy of slavery and the legacy of sharecropping and the legacy of systemic racism and poverty in the Black community in this country. And he, from picking cotton, was able to get out of that poverty in North Carolina, get an amazing college education, played in the NFL, got an amazing executive job at GM and worked there for his whole career, and then was able to put his kids through private school and do all the things. Well, do my parents have money to like, will we be inheriting any money? No. Like every cent that they got was poured into us, us kids, and making sure that we were set up for the future. And so thinking of things in that context and that lens, it's like, what do I expect? Like we've grown leaps and bounds from a father who picked cotton to where I am now sitting, having these two amazing gigs where I get to sit at a very rarefied seat in the beauty industry. So like I need to give myself grace and and move through the world with a grateful spirit that like in one generation we could even get this far.
Amazing. And that's the beginning of the book, by the way, Julie. I'm just saying.
I mean, it's real. People don't think about that. You think about, my ancestors back in the day, hundreds of years ago, were picking cotton and were slaves. My father had to pick cotton at work camps when he was younger in order to support his family because he was the oldest of his family and his mother died during childbirth. Talk about Black maternal health and like all of these things. And to come from that and to give his children, his family, the type of life that I'm able to live now is wild. So for me to expect we're going to be like some millionaires in this lifetime, which we're not going to count it out because it might happen, but I can't, like we got to celebrate where we are.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the thing. It's you think about it, you celebrate where you are. Like my parents were 19 and 21 years old and up and left Jamaica and moved to England, didn't know anybody, and built this life and then packed up and moved again. I came to the US to give my brothers and I better education. And it's like, where we sit right now? Like, it's like it's crazy part. Like our offices are a block away from each other. You're on 50th and 8th, right?
57th and 8th, 57th and 8th.
I'm on 58th and Broadway. So
Love it.
Yeah.
It's insane.
Like those buildings, like that's where they're one generation removed. And that's where your daughters your Black daughters are
exactly. So that's why we have to give ourselves grace and move in a grateful heart, because the comparison culture of it all, like, I thought it by 41 years old, I would have a house and a few cars and like all the things. I don't. I'm still living in the 4-story walk up I lived in the day, like when I moved to New York City. And that's okay because I'm blessed that I've been able to stay here and build my family and build my career. But to poo-poo myself that I'm not where maybe I thought I should be or where other people are is a fool's errand and exercise, because I'm still so blessed. And so I can't think about lack. I'm trying to move away from the spirit of scarcity and lack and like a spirit of abundance. I am abundant and it's only going to get more abundant.
Amen. And you're right. It is very much a spirit of abundance. And in that vein, and thinking about Julie, what do you do for your self-care?
Oh, girl, not enough. I think that's a good answer. No, it's not enough. I don't. I mean, it's all about the hustle, right? It's like hustle, work. How can I do more to give more to my family? I do think I need to work on being more, thoughtful around my self-care, especially being in the beauty space. I'm constantly, I get an email almost every day, like, come and get a facial, come and get a massage, come and get this. And I never do it. I'll like do it every now and again. I literally have a little wallet that's stacked like at least 3 inches high with like gift cards, because I look at them and I don't do it. And it's so funny because there'll be friends who are going through something and I will use the gift card and like set something up for them to go and get like a massage or facial or something. Which I do think is part of self-care. I love giving. It makes me feel good, but
Mhm.
I do recognize that I should probably use some of those things for myself.
Yes, you should. Giving is amazing, but you have to give for yourself first. So I'm going to give you the advice that I gave to somebody else during our 29 days interviews, where I was like, pick the third Sunday of the month and make that
Hmm.
Julie Day. And
Oh,
take one of those gift cards and just put it in the calendar and make that appointment. So whether it's like
I
at
like that.
or 1 p.m. or 5 p.m., but like that the third Sunday of the month. It just works. And like and a reason why it works is because I actually started doing this, where because I was similarly like, oh, I don't have time, blah, blah, blah. And then I was like, you know what? I live and die by my calendar, right? So if it's in my calendar, it does exist. So I just put it in the calendar, third Sunday is Laura Day. And whatever that's going, it doesn't mean the entire day is Laura
Hmm.
Day, but like I'm going to spend at least 1 to 2 hours doing something for me. And for me, that's going to the spa and like, getting a
Yeah.
massage or getting a facial.
That's so smart. You have to schedule it, right? It's not just like something that's going to come naturally for some of us. We have to schedule it because we are so ingrained in hustle and doing for others. So I get that. I must say though, I do every weekend. I love going to farmers markets here in the city. There's two. There's one on Saturday up near us in Harlem, and then there's one on Sunday that I love, which is a 70 8th Street, I guess, right there at the Museum of Natural History. And whether I bring the baby Nadir or my oldest son Orion or not, sometimes I go by myself and I just love it. It's like people watching. I'm able to walk around. I like get the best apples and like and flowers. It's kind of nice.
Okay, okay. So we got some pieces there. Good. The farmers
Yeah,
market.
yeah.
Yeah, we're good. We're good. We're getting there. We just have to a little more because you deserve it. And
Yes.
now, last question for you. Do you
Ooh.
have a give and or ask of the audience?
Oh my gosh. My give is to never forget how dope you are. I feel like I tell this to people so often, and I have to tell myself it all the time. Is I am reminding everyone right now who is listening that you are dope and you are a bright, shining light, and no one else has the type of light that you have. And so it is our jobs to shine that light and not to allow anyone, including yourself, to dim it. That is something that is a daily reminder I have to tell myself because I spent a lot of years allowing people to dim my light, or I would dim my light because it was making other people uncomfortable. And we're not here for that anymore.
No
I'm turning
way.
this bitch up. We are turning this bitch up, and that's it. That's all there is to it. And then my ask would be show up as your like most authentic self. I don't know if this is the type of gives or asks you're asking for, but
Perfect.
I think that in order for us to like really move the culture when it comes definitely when it comes to our professions and when we're inside these corporate settings that I would ask us to really try as hard as we can. It's not the easiest thing in the world, but to show up as your most authentic self. I will never um I will be I will what am I trying to say? I was really proud of myself when I came to interview at Cosmo and I really leaned in with my editor and with the editor in chief here and said like this is the type of storytelling I want to do. This is what's important to me. And if the publication is not ready for that, if that's not something that you want, then I'm okay with not being offered this opportunity because I want to make sure that I show up as my most authentic self. And the fact that they were like, yes, go do it was great. But I know that that took a lot of courage on my part to be like, no, I don't want your job unless I can show up authentically. And I know that that will take a lot of courage on other people's parts. But I'm hoping that if we show up in that way in more numbers, then we will really shift the culture in ways that will blow our mind.
You are so right. Because it's similar to thing here. Like, I won't do this unless it's me as me. And if that don't work for you, cool.
Yeah.
And
And
I
that
think,
took time, Laura.
oh, of
Like that took
course.
time. I couldn't have
Okay.
done that. I couldn't have done that a few years ago. I really
Yeah.
couldn't have. I do think that there's a moment in time where you can really lean into your worth and who you are. I wouldn't have done that before. I would have just played. I'm like, yep, do whatever you want, blah, 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 blah. But then there just comes a point in time, and that is really magical, that where you're just like, no, this is who I am, take it or leave it. And every time I've shown up with that energy in a positive way, they always want to take it. And that's it feels so good. It just feels so good.
I love it. And it's so very true. Oh my God, Julie, you're amazing.
That was so much fun. You are so amazing. Such thoughtful questions. I'm so glad. I feel like I just had a therapy session. And now I'll be able to like move through my day like with even more confidence.
Awesome. Oh my gosh, Julie. Like I said, it's been, I've been trying to do this for a couple of years, but it was 100% worth the wait. I mean, it's why this is why I do 29 Days of Magic, because it's just the dopeness that you just distilled down in the last 30 minutes. I think was just incredible. I'm gonna put
Thank
all the
you.
details in the show notes for folks to follow you on Instagram and all the social medias. Obviously, read your column religiously, and
Yes.
support BeautyUnited, and just continue to support you, because you were just an amazing light, and
Thank you.
it's so dope to know that that you exist and do it in such an
Oh,
awesome way. So thank you so
thank
much for
you.
being part of 29 Days of Magic.
Thanks so much.
And that is our show.